Hannah. Do you remember that time, sophomore year of college, when the Occupy movement was going on in Cincinnati, and a group of us stayed up past our bedtimes to go march around the park with people holding signs? And some of us were there to learn some more about the movement, and some of us were there to get arrested, but most of us didn't really know why we were there at all. I mean, I knew that we were protesting economic and social inequality, but since every protest is about some form of social or economic inequality, it doesn't really count unless you get more specific. And I remember that being one of the main criticisms of the Occupy movement in general, that it was so unorganized that the people protesting didn't actually know what it was that they were protesting against. These criticisms aren't wrong, but I think they might have missed the point entirely. Segue to this book I just started reading by the French-American microbiologist René Dubos called So Human and Animal. This book was written in 1969, a time when Dubos had seen that America's collective guilt had reached a point where it boiled over into a collective rebellion. He does mention the types of rebels that rail against inequality but then are unable to give up the personal advantages that they gain from the very conditions they object against. In our world of Facebook activism and coffee shop revolutionaries, it's clear to see that the archetype Dubos was describing is still around today. What's interesting is that he doesn't characterize these inert rebels as part of the problem, but as an integral part of the solution. It's the same idea you find in groups of people struggling with addiction. The first step is admitting that you have a problem. So pointing out things like racial injustice or the ugliness of urban environments or the destruction of the ecosystem is not a pessimistic action if you view it as the first step towards healing. Plus, we need to be able to express our concerns about problems that have no foreseeable solutions, like the feeling of utter meaninglessness in the wake of all of our religious traditions being deflated by modern science. Maybe we're decades away from forming a relevant modern definition of God and of man, but nothing will ever change until a bunch of really confused, young, rebellious people cry out in angst. Hannah, I guess what I'm saying is that the urge to rebel is like the urge to love. It doesn't need any justification. There is a reason that the beginnings of different eras in everything from music to politics are marked by acts of rebellion. It is the mechanism by which we can free ourselves from our own oppressive habits. Rebellion doesn't have to be a destructive force. In fact, I think it could be the force that protects us from destruction. However, Hannah, there is one thing that you can't rebel against, and that is your punishment for making your video a day late. Now, Hannah, I like you, so I want you to do something you're gonna enjoy, like eating Oreo cookies. Maybe an entire package of Oreo cookies in one sitting. And of course I'm gonna need proof, so if you don't get it on video, then it didn't happen. Have fun with that, Hannah. I'll see you soon.